Today's species spotlight is on a really cool species in North American colubrid, and that is the desert king snake. This is Josephine. Their Latin name is Lampropeltis splendida. They're about one of close to almost 30 different species of king and milk snakes. Most of them belong to the genus Lampropeltis, which in Latin translates to shield belly, which hopefully you can see that on the camera. They're about very, very shiny iridescent bellies. Those really nice, bright and shiny belly scales. Now, they're called desert king snakes, but in fact, these guys hail from not desert areas. They're traditionally found in the most southern part of the United States and northern Mexico. So parts of Nevada, Arizona, Texas, and then northern Mexico, as I said. But they're not really found in deserts, like I said. They're actually usually in areas that get a fair amount of water, at least during the growing season, i.e. spring into early fall, which generally means there's quite a bit of vegetation. These habitats are actually distinguished and called mesic habitats. So when you're out looking for these guys, more than likely you're going to be finding them in meadows, in prairies, in open grasslands, scrub grasslands, and even some forests. Now, these guys are distinguished from other types of king snakes by their pattern and by their color. So they are black and yellow, like a fair few different king snakes out there. But, so they're that kind of black as their kind of base set color. And then they kind of have, they're not solid stripes usually. A lot of the times they're actually like little dots of yellow to white, and they form stripes. So individual scales will actually be those set color, or sometimes they'll even be like a dot in that darker scale. And sometimes they will be that full banded, and they will make those kind of cool yellow striping to make that kind of bumblebee looking snake. They can vary, where they can be almost jet black, almost like an Eastern or a Mexican black king snake, or they can be incredibly high yellow. This girl's kind of sitting like right in between those. Now, unlike the desert part of the name, which doesn't really have to do with where they are, just kind of the general geographic area, which is why they're called desert kings, but they are in fact still a king snake, which, if anyone is still confused at this point, king snake implies that they are the king of snakes. So, in addition to eating just mammals and small lizards, they will also eat other snakes, which includes venomous rattlesnakes and even other king snakes. Now, in captivity, they make wonderful pets, arguably one of the best pet reptiles, period. They're incredibly hardy. They're very forgiving when as far as their husbandry goes. Like corn snakes, they're very easily handleable. They tend to have a reputation, and Josephine here does earn that reputation a little bit, of being incredibly food motivated, which actually means that you probably won't have any issues actually keeping them. King snakes and milk snakes do have a tendency to musk when agitated versus actually using their mouth a lot of times, which is really, really good. As I said before, they're very forgiving as far as their husbandry goes. You can keep them basically like a corn snake, maybe just a little bit warmer, a little bit drier. Always remember to give them plenty of space to be able to thermoregulate between warmer and cooler, and then multiple hides, including humid and dry hides, because they still live in small little areas. Because, you know, coming from parts of Texas, Arizona, Nevada, you think it's very hot, especially considering their activity period. They're essentially active from April to October, so the hottest parts of the year. However, they're not out when it's 90, 100 degrees outside. They're crepuscular, which means they're coming out in the evening as it's cooling down, and they come out and they soak up that radiant heat from the sun, and then they're active a little bit into the night, and then sometimes you'll see them a little bit in the morning times, but you'll very rarely see them out in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night. Now, looking at this girl, you can tell there's something a little bit off with her by any of the desert king snake aficionados, or even California king snake aficionados. And that is because Josephine here is in fact an intergrade. She's probably an intentional hybrid, which means that she was bred in captivity with a California king snake and a desert king snake. However, these guys, the desert kings or the Splendida, have a range that overlap with quite a few other species of king snakes, and they do in fact naturally integrate quite often. So much so that it was a while before they even thought that these guys were just another subspecies of the eastern king snake or the Lampropeltis galuta. And the eastern kings have a whole bunch of different subspecies, from the Brookside, the Apalachicola, the blacks. They're all part of that eastern king snake. And these guys do go into that range, as well as the northwestern part of the range does overlap with parts of the California king snake. So while this girl is probably, because she was essentially given to an education facility, they were having restructuring, reorganizational issues, so we got her instead. So she's been hanging out with us to act as a really cool animal ambassador for little kids and everybody to kind of meet and understand about really cool animals. But in the wild, they do actually naturally integrate. They're really, really cool, and as I said before, they do make very good pets. They're a little bit overlooked when it comes to the commonality of them and the popularity, because they don't have as many morphs as like the California king snakes, or even the eastern king snakes with the hypos and the flames and the mosaics and all that other stuff. But they do have several morphs, including an albino. And I would argue that the albino of the desert king snakes, without that high white or banana or the other stuff, is arguably, I think, the prettiest of all the albino king snakes. As I said probably 100 times by this point, it's a very, very cool species of king snake. Great as a beginner pet, as well for someone who just appreciates a cool looking, active, intriguing, inquisitive pet snake. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. I have that whole species spotlight playlist. There's over 60 of them at this point. I actually went through to see how many there are. There's over 60 different species. So if you want to check out that playlist, some of the older ones I'm thinking about readdressing and adding a little bit better and more detailed information, a little bit more concise, but with that as well. But if you want to check out that playlist, it'd be really great. Hit that bell notification, like and subscribe, all that jazz. I really, really appreciate it. Again, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you're having a great day, and we'll check you next time.